Hi, my name is Zephyr Wildman. Welcome to Practice. In this preamble, I'm going to offer you insight into the Gunas. These are the mental, physical, emotional, and energetic attributes of everything in nature. Everything is ruled by these three Gunas, and there is a natural rhythm and flow from one to the other. We can see it in the seasonal change, the time of day, a life cycle. This idea of these three qualities stemming from unmanifested to manifest rules everything. Your physical body, your energetic, your emotional, your mental. And the more we are attuned of the gunas in play, the more we have tools to be able to maybe create a more of a balanced, harmonized experience when we see ourselves coming out of balance in one way or another, but also to be able to ride that wave when the pendulum swings from one to the other, and being able to be more graceful, wakeful, and being able to bespoke our practices, tend to our needs when we need it, to be able to manage that biorhythm of the life. So these three gunas are sattva guna, rajas guna, and tamas guna. Each one has a positive and a negative quality. So rajas guna is all about stimulation, movement, fire, the solar energy, whereas tamas guna is about heaviness, dullness, material density, and more of that lunar energy. Whereas sattva guna is about balance, harmony, the equanimity. So to experience rajas guna, the positive qualities of rajas guna, it is motivating. It's the principles of motion, of that kinetic energy, that forward movement, that experience of inspiration to move you to what you desire, your goals, your intentions, to manifest that experience of being adaptable to change and being able to have vision and that light and that fire to motivate you to create. So there is that positive side of rajas, but the negative side is that we get very distracted, overstimulated, hyper. We feel that we become almost obsessive in that experience of revving up that doership of being a human doing and not understanding what it feels like to be a human being. But that increased sense of that negative form of rajas increases our pain, our suffering, and then promotes more of that rage, that irritability, that intolerance, that judgment, in that way where it goes into creating more and more heat where we burn up. Whereas the positive side of tamas is that it's really pointing towards how to renew oneself, to learn how to relax and rest, to create restoration, to fix, regards to supporting the homeostasis of the body, and that ability to build up the resources for strength, to feel more grounded, stable in your life, to feel very connected. But the more negative qualities of tamas is that there's this downward spiral of this depression, this sense of self-doubt, immobility, procrastination, attachment, emotional clinging, this obstruction, a negativity in thought, emotion, and body, this lethargy and this resistance, and just feeling really tired and kind of, lazy and unmotivated. So you can kind of see that, there's a positive and negative quality. Whereas sattva guna is one of balance and harmony, that sense of equanimity in the mind, heart, and body. It's the quality of light, of joy, of delight, of good health, and that sense of contentment, and that sense of delight, stillness, that enduring calmness that we could experience. However, the kind of negative quality is this, that we get this kind of spiritual superiority, this kind of like, I am so above all this human interaction and this mundane stuff, and there's this sense of entering this enlightenment retirement where you feel that you are not affected by life. So each of the gunas has really interesting information in it, in a way in which we can gain more self-knowledge and understanding of maybe why we feel the way we feel, why we're thinking the thoughts that we're thinking, why we're doing the things that we're doing. So this can really be shown in the natural biorhythms of the breath. And this is pointing towards Swara Yoga, which is looking at the left and right nostril pattern. Right is associated with Rajas Guna, so it's the solar, the Pingala, whereas the left is the lunar channel, which is Ida, and it's the more calming channel. And we found that every 90 to 120 minutes, our nostril dominance changes. So when you wake up, your right nostril should be open. You feel like you're gonna go and crack on with your day, but usually around 11 o'clock where you need a cup of tea and a biscuit, your left nostril's open because you're feeling a bit sleepy. Same thing, it's like, you know, in the early afternoon, you're like full of energy and we gotta get things done, but by 4 o'clock, it's time for siesta and we wanna fall asleep. And so we start to see throughout our day, there's this natural biorhythm of activity and rest, and this should be a healthy way to actually conduct being a human. But we have a tendency to override that, where we stimulate too much of the rajasic quality and we end up burning up. Or we hang out in the tamasic quality and we dry up. And so there's this sense that we're not really honoring our natural biorhythm. So our practice really is to become aware of which nostril dominance is open, and we're trying to actually connect to breathing through them equally, even if it doesn't physically happen, connecting to more of that sattvic guna, where you bring that tamasic state and that dull heaviness that you feel. If your left nostril is open right now, you feel a little bit sleepy and physically a bit kind of like, I don't really want to practice yoga. And what we're trying to do is create a little bit more stimuli to wake tamas up, to bring it over into more of a positive quality, but also that sense of finding a little bit more balance to that tamasic state. Same thing with the rajasic side, is if you're overactive, we need to slow down that activity to bring itself into balance. So yoga asana is a very great way to actually address this, of starting to highlight which side is open. Okay, how do we bespoke our practice? Do I need more activity because I'm feeling very tamasic? Do I need less activity and feeling a sense of really slowing down to create more of that balance? And we can start to see this in a 4-part breath. So as we watch the beginning, middle, end of your inhale, which is stimulating. The inhale is that rajasic form. It wakes you up. It's that rajasic energy as you receive that vital energy. And that transition is that sattvic form. And then the exhale pattern is that tamasic form, that letting go, grounding, releasing, resting, renewing. So that sense of the exhale pattern as we watch the beginning, middle, end. The transition between the exhale to the inhale is that sattvic form. So it says like every 90 to 120 minutes, our nostril pattern changes, but within that change, there's about a 3 to 5 minute window that all of a sudden both nostrils are open. And that's usually a sign when you are awake and you're like, wow, I'm right here right now. Both nostrils are open. The teaching says we should meditate or do some contemplative practices where we really rest our attention in the moment and really steep ourselves in that contentment, that light, that joy of being embodied, awakened consciousness, spirited embodiment. So what we're trying to do is just watch our natural biorhythm of the body in that way in which we can start to bespoke our practice. If you're feeling really rajasic in practice today, maybe lengthening the exhale, leaning towards more of tamas. Whereas if you're feeling really dull and tamasic today, Inhale, lengthen your inhale, receive more of that breath, leaning more towards rajas. So we can start to shape the breath to actually create more of a balanced experience to our practice. In that way in which we can, by the end of the practice, hopefully come together in that way of yoga, of taking the pair of opposites and bringing them together in an intimate relationship and abiding in the self as the self, as you feel completely absorbed, noticing the pair of opposites cease to have an impact on you, and that you feel whole, complete, at rest, and sensing that illuminated emptiness of the here and now, that leaning you towards the state of yoga. So in our practice, what we'll do is the yoga, kind of pulling it apart and analyzing the left and right side, and then we'll, at the end, bring everything together to create Sam Yoga, to create this sense of harmony, balance, and equanimity. I hope that has served you. Enjoy your practice.